Okay, here's the database interface file that we're going to test. Now the question is, what do we test? Well, as a first step, the things you want to test are the functions, right? So there's three functions here. There's a constructor, the underscore init underscore file function, the store function, and the read function. So they're the three things we probably want to test. So what do you test with the constructor? Well, you just make an object of type database interface and see that it does all the things that you're supposed to do. I tend to prefer to create the tests for database underscore interface.py in a file called test underscore database underscore interface.py. Okay, and I've done that off screen here. And here's a first cut at testing the creation of the database interface. Notice I have to import the database interface from the database interface file, and that's done there from database interface understood.py, import the class database interface. And here's my test for creation. I'm going to make a new database instance, database interface, and I'm going to check that it does those two things, that it has functions called, well, it has attributes called read and store. Haven't actually checked whether they're functions yet, but anyway, it is what it is. And I'm also going to check that my default file name is like that. And then on the server, I think I showed you, I haven't, I don't think I've done a video of it yet, but I'll do a video of setting up the tests, running PyTest. But what you can do on the command line is just go to a new terminal, and provided you've got PyTest, you've got things set up appropriately, you should just be able to run PyTest, and you can see there that it found one test, and this green instance down here means that it passed. Now just suppose I have a test that fails, right? I'm going to remove the K from that file name and I'm going to run it again. Then I'm going to get a failure, right? It's all the red, and it says that the assertion error is that rock paper scissors.pkl does not equal rock paper scissors.pl. If I put that K back, then I should be able to test it again and pass. Now that only tests a little bit, right? So what we can do is we can do a few other things. So let's do this, test read, right? And I'm not sure what the right thing to do there is. I think I'm going to yeah, let's see what happens. I'm going to do a DB interface, right? There's my database interface, and I'm going to say my data equals db.read, and then I'm going to say for keys in data.keys, right, print keys. Actually, it's going to be singular key, right? So print key, and actually not assert, not do that. I think we probably just want to assert, do an assert key is not none, right? And that should be, well, the first thing we can do is assert that data is not none, right? That's a good test. And then we can check to see if there's keys in there and do that. Then we can go back down here and run our PyTest again. And now you'll notice we've got the collector found 2 tests and we've got 2 passes. So that seems to work. And then we want to test store, right? And we probably want to do the same sort of thing, right? DB interface dot that, and I'm going to create a data to store equals that, and then data to store of example equals 10, right? db.store, and I'm going to store data to store, right? And then I'm going to retrieved data equals db.read, and then I'm going to assert that retrieved data is not none. Assert retrieved data. Oh, I'm going to, what do I want to do here? I probably want to say that example is in retrieved data.keys, and then assert that retrieved data example is 10. Okay, and then we can do another PyTest, and now we've got 3 passes. We're doing a little bit of testing. We could probably do more to check that if we start off with a brand new file, right, instead of relying on the default file name, we could probably start with that and get past. Remember, what we can do is we can pass in a different file name and check to see that that works as well as using the default file name. And we could go on, and depending on how complicated our database interface needed to be. But that's probably a good enough start for testing the database interface. I'm not going to go through all of these classes to show you how to test them. Basically, the other classes in here, remember there's the result tracker, and there are 4, right? There are 4 here. There's the constructor, there's the store result, there's the get result, and then there's the print previous results. Now this is a little different. The database interface isn't assuming any sort of format on the data being stored. Whereas now we have a very specific dictionary that's going to be stored, that stores the uses the player's initials to store all of their results, and then stores the numbers of times they get the computer wins, the player wins, or a tie. Right, and that's going to be a little different, a little bit different. That's why here, when we start it up, if we don't have any results for that person's initials, then we've got to do that. And if there is already a result, then we're just going to increment it. But if there's no result for that, no number for that particular result, we're going to increment. We're going to start initialize it to 0. Sorry, to 1, because this is the first time that this has happened, and we want to check that. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. For now, what I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to go through and set up the tests in GitHub. And I think I posted about how to do that, just some screenshots, but let me do it live, and then you can see how all of that hangs together.